Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, Tokers and Tokettes. Glad to have you here. Give me a quick second. Got to finish some typing. Just having to type up a response here on Facebook. I got haters out there, and so my latest hater had to respond to. Yeah, Patrick Nightingale was our guest today earlier, and I've got a couple of people out there that are all upset at me because I only support patients when I have time, and again, why he's done things against patients. He does things against patients. Russ hates the patients. Medical is never exciting for Russ unless he can use it or the patients for airtime. Yes, I hate patients. I just absolutely hate them. I'm so evil. It's amazing what I have to go through reading the comment section sometimes and what people, how they form opinions of me because they disagree with me on certain things. The latest here is Tory's got a big problem with me because patients have been devastated in Washington and Oregon since legalization has happened. Therefore, it's legalization's fault. See, the patients, if anything bad happens to patients after legalization happens, then of course it's legalization's fault because post hoc ergo propter hoc, right? Because thing A happened and then thing B happened. Well, obviously thing A must have made thing B happen. That's the way these people think. And the first thing I have to say whenever I address this is, so what's the alternative? That we would have never legalized? That we should have never legalized marijuana? Don't legalize marijuana until there can be an absolute guarantee that it will never affect any patient whatsoever in any way. Is that the alternative, Tory? And hey, not to call you out, feel free to give me a call. Phone line's open, 971-533-7111. But personally, I've just about had it with all you keyboard commandos out there on Facebook calling me out, saying all sorts of terrible things about me, but not a single one of you has the huevos rancheros to pick up the goddamn phone and try to make your case on the air. You want to sit here and accuse me of using patients, of being against patients, of hating patients, but you don't have the guts to call it up and say it to my face? Bunch of cowards. Cloaking yourself in the high horse and the mantle of, oh, I'm a patient advocate. I help the most sick and disabled people. Well, good for you. I'm glad you do. But you do realize that the sick and disabled people are a tiny sliver of a fraction of the people whose lives are devastated by this marijuana prohibition day in and day out. And I am sick and tired of us having to wait until nirvana is achieved for all patients before we help the first recreational person not get busted. It smacks of the same kind of arrogance I hear from prohibitionists. Well, if you don't want to get busted for marijuana, just don't smoke marijuana. Of course, I have to smoke marijuana because I'm a patient. I'm special. I deserve special rights. Sick of it. Hate me all you want. Call me all the names you want. You can't point to anybody who has done more for more aspects of the cannabis community in promotion, in education, and lobbying and advocacy than me. Take a break. We'll be right back.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
The Russ Belville Show, where the truth about marijuana gets more than a minute to speak.
Tommy Chong is ready to cut through the smoke and change the tone of Tilk Radio.
All you have to do is decriminalize. We don't need a government regulation to tell us this is good pot, that's bad pot. We don't need any of that.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. I'm certainly going to be pissing some people off today, but you know, I've just had it. I've done. And this is a different discussion when we're talking about medical marijuana patients in the East Coast, people in Pennsylvania fighting to get the barest access to non-smoked materials that they'll have to get from 1 out of 10 dispensaries in a state. No, what we're talking about are the medical marijuana people on the West Coast, California, Washington, Oregon, who've been swimming in weed for a decade and a half now, who've had the laxest, most easily navigable medical marijuana programs, who've gotten away with pushing the most loopholes and stretching the greatest exceptions to hold things like medical cannabis cups and medical judging events and medical expos and seminars where I see commerce occurring, money being exchanged hand over fist in what is, of course, certainly an altruistic pursuit just to help patients, I'm sure. Folks, I'm tired of it. I'm going to keep calling you on it, especially out on the West Coast, where the shenanigans that have been fostered by medical marijuana have led to people's deaths in the East. I'm not doing this. That's not hyperbole, folks. California, Oregon, Washington, to some extent Colorado, to some extent Montana for that matter, pushing medical marijuana shenanigans and loopholes and exceptions to the breaking point are what have made it so that Pennsylvania has to fight over the barest minimum non-smokable, non-flower medical marijuana law because their legislators point to the West Coast and go, oh, no. We're not going to be like that. We're not going to be like Washington State, where a naturopath can sit in a tent at HempFest and hand out recommendations to skateboard kids for their anxiety before the Cottonmouth Kings. No, we're not going to be like that. We're not going to be like Oregon, where they card stack cards of growers so they can grow massive cannabis farms, where they admit to the media that they pay their workers in weed, when they admit that they're selling weed against the law at the time as it was written, where we see trunk loads of that card stacked Oregon medical marijuana being seized by multiple police agencies heading east because it's being diverted for profit by these so-called medical growers. Legalization didn't do that. That was medical marijuana doing that for 15 years. And of course, California, where famously anybody can go into any quack on Venice Beach, point to a sign that says they've got insomnia or anxiety, have no real sort of relationship with that doctor, no real sort of examination from that doctor, walk out with a medical marijuana doctor's permission slip, got bikini girls twirling signs on Venice Beach. Was medical marijuana really pushing really hard? Did I hear a whole lot of those activists making a bunch of noise about how we need to rein that in? No. The medical marijuana activists I knew throughout the past decade were the ones pushing all of those loopholes. It was the medical marijuana activist lawyers in Washington State that were giving cover to the people that wanted to run dispensaries by saying, oh, yeah, we know dispensaries are illegal. We know you can't have a storefront. So no. This building with a counter and all this weed in front of it that you're selling to people, why, it's not a storefront. No, you're a caregiver. You're a caregiver caring for one patient at a time who stands in line at your storefront. Oh, I'm sorry, not storefront, right? You're a caregiver. And they'll show up one at a time and you'll sign them up to be your caregiver, and then you'll sell them weed, and then you'll take them off as your caregiver so that the next person in line you can then be the caregiver for. That wasn't legalization that caused that sort of shenanigans. Those were medical marijuana advocates and medical marijuana lawyers finding those loopholes that they knew were not what the people intended and not what the people voted for, and stretching them to the breaking point. Now, I'm not calling them out because I'm against that. I'm all for getting as much medicine to as many people as possible and subverting the dominant paradigm and rebelling against the status quo. That's great. But don't do that and then come back and try to blame the legalizers for the black eye that was given to medical marijuana through those shenanigans. Own up to the fact you knew it when you were stretching these regulations. Oh my God, they're going to react to this. The whole idea was we were going to keep pushing it until we could finally get it legalized. And so now we get it legalized and we get literally people complaining in Oregon over the fact that one address might only be limited to growing 96 plants. Oh, my stars and garters. Only 96 plants? My goodness, how will anyone survive? Obviously, patients will be dying in the streets with only 96 plants at a country garden. 48 for a brand new country garden. And the real one that's got them all pissed off is only 12 plants in a residential garden. Yeah, if you live in a city, in a residential area where you got neighbors on all sides of you, I'm sorry, you can only grow just a dozen plants. That's all. Just a dozen. Oh, yeah, and you can grow an additional 4 that are allowed under Measure 91 for the recreational purposes. So you could actually grow 16 of these plants. And don't forget, the Oregon law was just changed. So on the medical marijuana side, the seedlings and the immature plants aren't even counted anymore. So yeah, we went from a situation where a person could grow for themselves 6 mature plants and 18 immature plants. Now they can grow 6 mature plants and infinity immature plants. There's no limit on the immature plants. Medical marijuana got better in that respect. Not only did it get better in that respect, medical marijuana got better in the respect of how much concentrate patients can possess. The new definitions in Measure 91 switched it so that hash oil, hashish, mechanical press, rosin press, any of the ice water hashes, you can have up to 1 pound of it. You can have up to 2 pounds of it before you even get anything worse than a ticket. And of course, legalization made it so that anybody who wants to use marijuana for a medical purpose can, without having to pay $200 to the state in protection money. But the dominant theme of medical marijuana activists lately has been, oh no, legalization has happened and that's ruined medical. Any bad thing that happens to medical now, why? Let's scapegoat legalization, because sure, it had nothing to do with what anything medical marijuana has been doing for the past 15 years. Medical marijuana advocates and the lawyers behind them and the things that have happened, completely innocent. It's all because we stopped trying to lock up black and brown people for using it for fun. Wow, that ruined everything. And look, this attitude, this separate and unequal attitude from the medical marijuana community is going to come to an end. And not because of anything I do, but because of the natural evolution of this issue. GW Pharmaceutical stock shot up 130% on the news that it passed just the first of its 4 phase 3 clinical trials just for epilepsy. This is just one drug for one condition. And when epilepsy is crossed off that list of qualifying conditions for the cannabis plant because, hey, you don't need it no more, we got this pill for you. That's exactly the same route the rest of those conditions are going to go. Medical marijuana is going to erode from this point forward. If you are going to try to keep your focus and try to maintain this fiction that somehow the people that are sick deserve better rights, don't deserve to go to jail, but the people who aren't sick do deserve to go to jail or be punished, that fiction is ending. And if you want to have access to the whole plant, you better get on my side. Because GW Pharmaceuticals is coming, Epidiolex is coming, Sativex is coming, and a whole bunch of other trade names that haven't been made up yet. The cannabis plant genome is being sequenced. The studies will begin in many of these states that have passed legalization. In the next presidential administration, if a Democrat is elected, it will at least be rescheduled to Schedule 2. More research will happen, more synthesis, more trial, and more standardization of cannabis is coming. There won't be a medical marijuana movement. Can anybody think of the medical insulin movement? The medical aspirin movement? No. Once these things become standardized, they're just things. Once they're standard and legal, there's no movement about it. In 10 years, marijuana will be standardized and legalized enough that anybody who needs it for whatever medical condition they need will be able to get a prescription from their doctor. It'll be paid for by their insurance, and they will pick it up at a pharmacy. So if you want, in that world, access to the whole plant marijuana, you can't base your access on medical need anymore. You don't have a high horse anymore. Your horse is I don't want to say extinct, is obsolete. There we go. Your horse is obsolete. The car has been invented. You don't get a high horse anymore. Your medical use doesn't make you special anymore. Now, if you want to touch the plant, you're just a pothead, just like the rest of us. And if you want to touch the plant, then you got to fight for everybody's right to touch the plant. And maybe that's where my problem comes with this, is I hate being treated separate but unequal. I hate being treated differently because I'm healthy, that I deserve more scorn because I merely enjoy cannabis rather than need it.
Hey, bud, let's party.
But that's okay, Tori, Bud, all you Facebook haters, keep on hating. I know I wouldn't be pissing you off so much if I wasn't right. Happy 420, everyone, in the Mountain Time Zone and here in Arizona, where we don't do that stupid daylight savings. Be back right after this.
From high atop Mount Soledad in San Diego, California, 100 feet above sea level. Good morning. It's good news with cannabis nurse Heather.
This plant is amazing. Positive change is happening. We did it. No matter who you are, you can make a positive impact on the world.
I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead.
And that quote helped to give you strength.
Nurse Heather is only on CannabisRadio.com.
Good morning, Cannabis Nurse Heather.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network.
Don't want to spend money on a night out, but don't know what to do other than watching TV or playing video games? Consider playing guitar, bass, banjo, or mandolin. The instrument will give you hours of entertainment with friends with minimal expense. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
Pod 2.0. It's not your father's Woodstock weed. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. My attitude is a little bit better adjusted now. I get mad sometimes, you know me. I think what makes me most mad is this attempt to portray me as some sort of cartoon mustache-twirling villain who hates patients. And I think why that really bugs me is because I get to talk to patients outside of the Pacific time zone. I actually travel outside of the Green Coast. I actually make my way to places like Texas and Virginia and Florida and Georgia, where patients there hear about medical marijuana advocates in Oregon bitching about a 12-plant garden limit. And they think, yeah, you ought to come east for a while. Hang out with my uncle who's got cancer, and an ounce of weed costs $400 when you can find it, if it's any good. And if you're caught with even the joint, you're going to get cuffs slapped on you and a misdemeanor charge. You're going to lose your job, and you're going to be profiled throughout your small town there in the South. And it's going to be difficult for you and your family. So yeah, maybe my perspective is a little skewed here. Maybe when friends of mine, like Vincent Lopez, fight from their wheelchair in places like Texas and then pass away before he's ever able to use a single bit of medical legal marijuana in his state. Maybe it just affects me personally. Maybe when I know listeners of my show who are these patients in these states who are fighting every day and every week just to score another bag, just to hope they don't get busted, just to keep it on the down low and not long enough in the hopes that maybe someday, maybe their state would pass something. People who listen to me day in, day out, hoping to hear the latest bit of news that might portend that their freedom is coming sometime in their lifetime. Maybe that's why I get so mad. I wish these people could just ride along with me sometimes. Come and meet Alexis Bortel in Texas. Come meet a 10-year-old girl who had to leave all her friends and family behind, move to a completely different state just to live. So, sorry, when you tell me medical marijuana has been destroyed in Washington and Oregon, it's been destroyed. Oh, what? Nobody can have medical marijuana anymore? Oh, no, people can still have medical marijuana. Oh, I see. Okay. So they can't shop at dispensaries anymore? Oh, no, they can still shop at dispensaries. Okay, I see. So can they still possess as much marijuana? Well, in Oregon they can still possess up to 1.5 pounds of marijuana. Yeah, that's right. 24 ounces of marijuana. Washington State, they did cut it down. It was like 24 ounces, and now it's down to 3 ounces. You can only have 3 ounces in Washington State. Just 3. That's all. So yeah, it's devastating. It's the worst thing ever. Oh, and the new one in Oregon that everyone's freaking out about is the Oregon Health Authority deciding that dispensaries can't sell extracts made by unlicensed processors. Well, unlicensed extracts were illegal in the beginning, and they're illegal now. And now they're not able to be sold at these dispensaries until October. So it's not even a permanent end to extracts. It's just until the licensing can happen. And of course, everybody's screaming bloody murder. Oh my God, it's the end of medical. Medical is over because of legalization. Now, there are some problems we need to fix with legalization. We need to get some sort of public smoking place. Washington felonizing cannabis clubs. Oregon using the Clean Air Act to make them illegal. Yes, those are problems. Those are definitely problems. But they weren't technically legal before. Kelly in our chat room is bringing up that they can sell anything they purchased prior to March 1st. So on one hand, they're saying the illegal extracts are okay. But then, he's a good point, right? So like if you'd already bought unlicensed extracts, you got a stack of them on the shelf at your dispensary, you can still sell them. You just, after March 1st, can't get any new unlicensed extracts. So they're going to sell out of their inventory. But I'll tell you what's really going to happen. What's really going to happen is people are going to go across the Glen Jackson Bridge and go across the Interstate Bridge. They're going to go to Vancouver and they're going to buy extracts. If they're not in the Portland area, if they're somewhere else, they're going to get extracts from some source on the black market, like they always have. Anytime that there's any scare story coming out of Washington or Oregon of patients will die because of this change, it's bullshit. The access might become a little more difficult on a temporary basis, but people are still going to get their medicine. People are still going to be fine. There are changes happening. We are finally legalizing marijuana for all people. The net effect of this is good for everyone, especially patients. Especially in Oregon when it's $200 for a medical marijuana card. $200 for a medical marijuana card so that you can have 24 ounces and grow 6 plants. When for $0, you can have 1 ounce in public, 8 ounces at home, and grow 4 plants. So what? You're going to spend $200 to get an extra 2 plants and triple the possession at home? Really? All right, let me get off this topic because, like I said, it kind of riles me up, and I want to make sure we covered some of the other news stories that are kind of floating around on the feed today. And there's this interesting one. We got kind of a couple of international stories here we can bring you. And the first one comes to us from the Canadian province of Alberta, home of Edmonton, right? Alberta liquor stores contemplating pot sales. The finance minister there in the province of Alberta kind of made a joke that we ought to sell weed through the liquor stores once, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals managed to get it legalized. And the Alberta Liquor Store Association said, well, let's find out. Maybe that's a good idea. Yvonne Martinez, she's the president of the Alberta Liquor Store Association, says, quote, "We started the conversation back last year when the new federal government had a policy of legal marijuana," end quote. So they're saying in Alberta, the members of this liquor store association are being asked about the idea through a formal survey and conversations with store owners, and they'll release the results at the end of April. And she hopes that they'll develop a policy position on retail pot sales in the liquor stores. And they say, there's a lot of positives to this. They're already used to IDing customers. They're already used to monitoring distribution of a substance. They've already got the brick and mortar buildings, right? Other folks don't like the idea. So, some people think that it's a bad idea to mix the two. But I don't know. I like the idea of there being an adult store, right? You can buy porn, liquor, weed, cigarettes. Let's put all the adult stuff in just one store, check IDs of everybody and be done with it, right? Don't have to have these separate buildings. It's weird how in Colorado and Oregon and Washington, for that matter, they've made such a point of keeping alcohol and marijuana separate. Despite the fact that the Oregon Liquor Control Commission is in charge of marijuana and the Washington State Liquor Control Board, which has been renamed now the Liquor and Cannabis Board, but the liquor people in Washington were put in charge of it. Colorado, they came up with their own division, and that was the Marijuana Enforcement Division, already existed for medical marijuana. But in Washington and Oregon, both states put their liquor regulators in charge of marijuana. And the first thing these liquor regulators wanted to do is to make sure that liquor and marijuana didn't mix. And I wonder how much of that is their own protecting of the liquor markets. If liquor is in one store and marijuana is in a different store, that's two different trips. And maybe that means when you make your liquor store trip, you're still buying the same amount of liquor. But if both of them are in the same store, maybe there's a drop-off in the liquor sales as people decide to augment their purchase with marijuana. It's hard to tell. They always like to couch these things in concerns for the public health. Oh, we found when you mix alcohol and marijuana, it's far worse on the roadways, which is true. It's like 24 times greater crash risk compared to liquor alone is 13 times greater. But yeah, interesting. So Canada already looking at liquor stores selling marijuana. Our other international story that I thought was interesting, and I mentioned this in brief a couple shows ago, but this loophole in New Zealand that allows people to use medical marijuana. Well, I told you how this story has to do with this loophole in New Zealand law that says if you're a patient from a foreign country and you have a prescription for a certain substance and you bring that with you to New Zealand, you're legal to have it so long as it's a month or less worth of your prescription. You can't bring in 6 tons or whatever, but if it's a month's worth prescription, you can have that in New Zealand. So we found the woman who's at the center of this story. Her name is Rebecca Ryder, and she's the one who discovered this loophole because the judge let her off of charges for importing cannabis. She's a New Zealand citizen, but she's originally from California. And in California, she's been using medical marijuana for 10 years. she's got numerous doctors attesting to her chronic pain. And so she's got this recommendation in California. She goes to New Zealand and she mails some cannabis chocolates ahead to New Zealand. Well, the Postal Service in New Zealand catches them, and then they go to her door and they arrest her for importing this controlled substance. And she says, no, I've got this recommendation from my doctor, and medical cannabis is legal. And her lawyer discovered the loophole, which says if the medicine was lawfully prescribed overseas and brought into the country, into New Zealand, and it's for medical purposes and it's 1 month's supply, then it's lawful. There is no offense under the Misuse of Drugs Act. But here's where I wonder if this lady in New Zealand has gotten the benefit of a certain amount of ignorance amongst the judiciary there in New Zealand, because nobody in America has a prescription for medical cannabis. Cannabis is not lawfully prescribed in America. It's recommended and given an affirmative defense. Shh, don't tell no one.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Next to THC and CBD, you can now add CBR to your cannabis vernacular. CBR as in CannabisRadio.com.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Tommy Chong Show on Cannabis Radio. You know, about this podcast, what I really want to do from now on is to solve world problems. I feel like my job is to calm everybody down and focus on how we can save this planet.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
Most of us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argosville. What are you smoking there, boy? This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 38 after the hour. We're live here in Scottsdale, Arizona at the headquarters for CannabisRadio.com. Reminding you that the Tommy Chong Podcast, Episode 3, airs tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Tommy and his son Paris for an enlightening chat from the master of cannabis comedy, Tommy Chong, exclusively here on CannabisRadio.com. So I want to talk a little bit about something called the Starbucks effect. I'm just naming it. I call it the Starbucks effect. And I'm naming this after what we hear from shocked prohibitionists and media sometimes when they'll point out, did you know in Denver, Colorado, there are more dispensaries than Starbucks? You hear this a lot, right? Oh my God, there's more dispensaries than Starbucks. And I've always faulted this reasoning because you're talking about comparing a specific apple to a whole set of oranges. More dispensaries than Starbucks, okay, I believe you. But are there more dispensaries than places I can buy coffee? I doubt it. See, dispensary is generic place I can buy weed. Starbucks is specific place I can buy coffee. So it's an apples to oranges comparison. It's always been stupid every time I've heard it. It's the stupidest scare story. Well, now the Starbucks effect is working in reverse. The Starbucks effect is actually working in our favor. Coming from Forbes magazine, Niall McCarthy wrote this piece about how America's 2015 marijuana sales are higher than Dasani and Oreos. And the point here is that, weed is so popular. It's the new boom. It's amazing, this product that's so popular, right? And points out that in America in 2015, legal marijuana sales were $3.4 billion. They say in 2016, it could go as high as $4.5 billion. And then he makes this nice little graph that compares legal marijuana sales, $3.4 billion, against these different brands of snack foods. And I don't know if snack foods on purpose because we're stoners, but first he goes with Dasani. That's, I think, Coca-Cola's brand of bottled water, right? Dasani, $1 billion in sales. DiGiorno's Pizzas, $975 million in sales. Girl Scout cookies, $776 million in sales. Oreos, $711 million in sales. Pringles, $514 million. Twizzlers, $203 million, right? And the effect here is to point out, wow, isn't it amazing how popular marijuana is? It's more popular than Girl Scout cookies and Dasani water and so forth, right? But that's just the Starbucks effect. Again, it's not an accurate comparison. We are talking about the generic, how much marijuana was sold, versus the specific, how much of Dasani brand water or Oreo brand cookies or Twizzlers brand licorice was sold. It's not an accurate comparison. How well did marijuana sales do versus bottled water, period? Not just Dasani, throw in your Aquafina, your Fiji, your generic store brands. How well did bottled water do against weed? DiGiorno pizza. No. How well did legal marijuana do against pizza? Period. I hate it when people lie with statistics, even when it works in our favor, folks. It's just not accurate. And this isn't to say that marijuana is not a big boom industry and economic engine. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and say, oh my God, we're better than cookies. No. Oreos and Girl Scout cookies combined were $1.4 billion. I bet we could find another $2 billion worth of cookies if we started getting into Chips Ahoy and Pepperidge Farm and a bunch of others, right? So let's not be patting ourselves on the back about how great marijuana is. I mean, it is great. It is a great economic engine, but let's have some accurate perspective on this, shall we? Also, want to talk a little bit about politics. Of course, today is election day here in the state of Arizona. I'm not voting in Arizona. I'm voting in Oregon. But a lot of people heading out to the polls. The primary elections have been a big story here in Arizona. Bernie Sanders did a couple of well-attended rallies, as did Donald Trump. And while Trump was down here, people formed a roadblock with their cars on the two major roads that led to Trump's rally. They formed these roadblocks. They parked their cars in the middle of the road. There's one picture here in the local paper of a woman, an activist, who'd used one of those U-shaped kryptonite bicycle locks to lock her neck to the body of her car. That's how badly they wanted to protest Donald Trump. And there's a piece up in Leafly that asks, why isn't the cannabis industry feeling the burn, noting that there was a lot of donation to Rand Paul from the marijuana community, but hardly any donation to Bernie Sanders from the marijuana community. As far as we're talking the marijuana industry, right? Why is that? They try to explain it away by saying, there's more, the money's better spent on people that can do work at the state level. Well, Rand Paul is a senator and Bernie Sanders is a senator. They both represent states. There's work that can be done at the state level. Oh, well, no, the other reason is because, the cannabis industry, Bernie Sanders is such a long shot. They don't want to throw money at him when he's not likely to win. Hello, Rand Paul was out of this race how long ago? And he was always considered a long shot, but the cannabis industry seemed to have no problem shoveling some money his way. I think some of this has to do with the fact that a lot of the people in the cannabis industry, people involved at the capital level, are highly libertarian in nature. It's my belief that these business people in the cannabis industry put business ahead of legalization, because clearly Bernie Sanders is the best candidate when it comes to marijuana legalization. He wants to deschedule marijuana, the best possible thing that can happen for the industry. But I think a lot of the industry people, that's not as big to them as, oh no, he's a democratic socialist that'll raise our taxes and give people free stuff. We can't vote for that. So I'm a little upset that we haven't seen more in donations from the cannabis industry to the Bernie Sanders campaign, especially when we check out the candidates and their stand on marijuana. Let's start with Hillary Clinton. This is Hillary Clinton speaking at the Democratic debate in Nevada.
I do support the use of medical marijuana, and I think even there we need to do a lot more research so that we know exactly how we're going to help people for whom medical marijuana provides relief. More research, because 29,000 studies in PubMed and 4,700 years of medical use documented throughout history without a single death just doesn't quite tell us what we need to know, does it, Hillary? I'm for it, but we need more research. That's your Hillary Clinton stand. Now, let's hear what Donald Trump has to say about medical marijuana. You might be surprised.
Legalized marijuana is always a very difficult question for medicinal purposes, for medical purposes. Absolutely, it's fine.
Absolutely, it's fine. Say what you will about Donald Trump, and believe me, there's plenty to say. But at least on this issue, in a vacuum, forget everything else, but in this one issue, he's better on the issue than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is still not sure. Well, yeah, I'm for it, but yeah, we need research. Yeah, maybe. Trump, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely for it. Sounds like the better candidate on medical marijuana, doesn't he? But of course, neither of them stand anywhere close to Bernie Sanders' stand.
Right now, marijuana is listed by the federal government as a Schedule I drug, meaning that it is considered to be as dangerous as heroin. That is absurd. In my view, the time is long overdue for us to remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Absolutely. Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana. Remove it. Don't reschedule. Don't shuffle it around. It does not belong in the schedule. And Bernie Sanders is the only candidate out there accurately telling people the truth about this issue, that it does not belong on the schedule. Here's more from Bernie.
I know that heroin is a killer drug, and we got to stay away from heroin, and we got to do everything that we can to make sure our kids do not get addicted to heroin. We also know, and people can argue with us till the cows come home and scientists dispute it, marijuana is not heroin. Now, I'm not here advocating for marijuana. I've done marijuana twice in my life when I was very young. And what it did for me is it made me cough a lot. That was my response. But I gather other people have had different experiences. I don't know. Marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug alongside of heroin. I agree. And that is why I believe we should take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act.
So we're in a situation now where the top three remaining presidential contenders are at the very least supportive of medical marijuana. And we've got Bernie Sanders calling for absolute end to federal prohibition. So the caucuses and primaries are going on in Idaho, Utah, and Arizona, We'll tell you more about that on tomorrow's show once we have some results. And there's also interesting news coming out of the CNN poll, the latest CNN poll on the presidential candidates. And it's very interesting because it finds that Bernie Sanders beats all three of the remaining Republicans, while Hillary Clinton can only beat Donald Trump. Sanders beats Donald Trump by 20 points. Clinton beats Donald Trump by 12. Sanders beats Rafael Eduardo Cruz by 13 points. Clinton ties with Cruz. Bernie Sanders beats John Kasich by 6 points. Clinton loses to John Kasich by 6 points. It's clear that the stronger candidate in the Democratic field is Bernie Sanders. And furthermore, there's also a CBS News New York Times poll out. In that poll, Hillary Clinton beats Donald Trump 50-40. Bernie Sanders beats Donald Trump 53-38. He does 5 points better than Hillary Clinton does. And of course, Hillary Clinton, her favorable numbers, only 31% of the registered voters find her favorable. Only 24% find Donald Trump favorable. 52% of voters have an unfavorable opinion of Hillary Clinton. A majority. 20% of Democrats have an unfavorable opinion of Hillary Clinton. And yet Democrats, it looks like they want to nominate Hillary. So don't blame me for President Trump. Blame Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Educator, author, and advocate Dr. Mitch Earlywine is here to tackle the burning issues.
And I'm here to clear up the myths about cannabis and burn them away with science.
CannabisRadio.com presents a no-holds-barred platform that seeks to redefine and revolutionize the entire scope of the cannabis culture while opening the door for more to join the cannabis crusade.
Dr. Kevin Hill.
You can't ignore the fact that, like alcohol, most people who use don't have a problem. So I think that you need to think about policy in that way while educating people properly about marijuana. I think that's the way to go.
Burning Issues, only on CannabisRadio.com.
You can find Radical Russ online everywhere. Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, SoundCloud, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and Boise State University's 2400 baud modem bulletin board system from 1985.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 54 after the hour, just closing things up here at Cannabis Radio headquarters here in Scottsdale. I want to remind you to join us tomorrow for the show. We've got a special guest joining us, author Josh Hout. He's written a book called 3 a Light. We'll find out all about it on tomorrow's show. Then on Thursday, Cops Say Legalize Drugs. We'll have another great speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And on Friday, we're going to be speaking with Alec Rockford. He's with a social media platform called Doobie. We'll find out all about that. It's all coming up on the Russ Belville Show the rest of this week, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, live on CannabisRadio.com, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here, exclusively on CannabisRadio.com. And then remember, next week, I will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be doing some live shows from Las Vegas. We'll have Dr. Mitch on our Monday show as usual. And on Wednesday, we'll speak with Doug Fine in our Hemp Day Hump Day update. It does not look as if I'm going to make it out to the East Coast for the DC Smokeout or to the Ann Arbor Hash Bash. So many trips we've got to take here in the next 3 months, and I kind of have to prioritize them, make sure that, you know, if I'm going to fly out to the East Coast, there needs to be 2 or 3 different gigs going on to make that expensive plane ticket worth it. So flying out for one day, Hash Bash or Smokeout, doesn't look like it's really going to happen. But we will be out starting on April 14th for the Patients Out of Time conference. The 14th, 15th, and 16th, that's Thursday through Saturday, we will be in Baltimore, Maryland at the Baltimore Harbor Hotel and bringing you all the latest from the Alliance for Clinical Therapeutics and all the greatest information on medical marijuana research will be presented there at the Patients Out of Time conference. That's Thursday through Saturday. And then Sunday and Monday, I will be at Mark Kleiman's Cannabis Summit in New York at New York University. And looks like we'll have Mark Kleiman on the show as well in the next couple of weeks, too, to preview this. So that should be fun. And the next Tuesday through Thursday, the 19th through the 21st of April, I'll still be in New York City at the United Nations General Assembly Special Session on Drugs, their first special session since 1998. I just applied for all my media credentials through the UN, so that was fun. I will be a UN-accredited journalist. That'll be a lot of fun. So if you're going to be in Baltimore for Patients Out of Time or anywhere in the New York area around the week of 420, and 420 is on a Wednesday this year, so that's 420 week, I will be in New York. I would love to meet you there. So let me know. I'm at Radical Russ on everything. Gmail, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. There's no excuse for not getting a hold of me, folks. Well, that sound means that we are out of time here for our 2-hour block on CannabisRadio.com. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. Feel free to send me an email, radicalruss@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail message, 971-533-7111. For everyone here at Cannabis Radio headquarters in beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!